Look like Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu has broken their silence about this massacre they team just had.
The defending champs took a tough loss on their own court, falling by 14 points, and what happened next was unexpected. Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart spoke to the media after the game, and instead of dodging questions or making excuses, they gave credit where it was due. Their honest praise for Caitlin Clark's performance made one thing clear: she's a force to be reckoned with in this league. Were you impressed by how gracious the Liberty Stars were after the loss? Or do you think they were just playing it safe after getting outplayed?
The performance we saw from Caitlin Clark today against a team that started off the season 9-0, a team that is the defending champions, might have been the greatest women's basketball performance we have ever seen. That might have been the greatest showing from a WNBA player we have ever witnessed. That was spectacular. The shots she hit in this game, y'all, were something like I've never seen any other women basketball player ever come close to hitting. There are NBA superstars out there that I have not seen have a game with that.
Let's set the stage, because understanding the full picture makes this moment even more powerful. The New York Liberty came into the game as reigning champions, leading the league, and probably expecting an easy win against a team that had been struggling without its star player. But things didn't go as planned. Caitlin Clark, just back after missing 5 games with an injury, put on a show. She dropped 32 points, dished out 7 assists, and delivered highlight after highlight, reminding everyone exactly why she's one of the biggest names in the sport. And here's what made the night even more remarkable. After getting outplayed by Clark and the Fever, Liberty stars Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart didn't make excuses. They didn't brush it off. Instead, they gave Clark the credit she earned, plain and simple.
Like we go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them. But
when asked about Caitlin Clark's performance after missing several games, Sabrina Ionescu didn't hold back. She gave Clark full credit. She spoke about Clark's shooting skills, her deep range, and how she can still get her shot off, even with defenders all over her. That wasn't just being polite. That was one star player recognizing another. But Sabrina went beyond just talking basketball. She said she was genuinely happy to see Clark back on the court and feeling good. Not just for the team, but for Clark personally. That kind of comment shows real respect. It's not something you say about just any opponent. What really stood out, though, was Sabrina's honest take. They gave Clark too many easy looks. Coming from one of the best shooters in WNBA history, that says a lot. If Sabrina Ionescu tells you someone's range is legit, you pay attention, because she knows exactly what elite shooting looks like. Breanna Stewart took a similar approach, though with her own perspective. As one of the WNBA's most decorated players with championships and MVP honors to her name, she could have shifted the focus to team mistakes or questionable calls, but she didn't. Instead, she gave an honest assessment. On that night, they were simply outplayed by a better team. That kind of honesty, especially from someone of her stature, says a lot about how much respect Clark and the Fever earn.
Reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
The interaction between Stewart and Clark during the game spoke volumes. At one point, Stewie was laughing, and Caitlin clearly knew how wild the moment was. They were just enjoying it, the top competitors having fun in the heat of battle. One moment stood out when Clark hit a deep 3 from near the logo with Stewart guarding her from a distance. Instead of looking frustrated or upset, Stewart actually smiled. That reaction said it all. She knew she'd just seen something special, even if it came at her team's expense.
We had our moments. We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well. And we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So
defensive issues Stewart mentioned weren't just random errors. They were a direct result of Caitlin Clark's presence on the court. When someone can confidently shoot from just past half court and actually make it, defenses are forced to stretch in ways they're not used to. The Liberty were stuck trying to contain Clark without leaving everyone else wide open, and it didn't work. What made the post-game remarks even more meaningful was the bigger picture. despite the media's efforts to stir up rivalries between Clark and other WNBA stars. Ionescu and Stewart didn't take the bait. They stayed respectful, gave credit where it was due, and offered honest takes on what happened. The stats backed them up. Indiana shot incredibly well from beyond the arc, and with Clark leading the way, her teammates thrive off the attention she drew. It was a performance that spoke for itself. When defenses focus so much on one player that they leave pros wide open, those shots are going to fall. That simple truth, spoken by Breanna Stewart, sums up the challenge of facing Caitlin Clark. Her presence alone changes the way teams play. The Liberty felt that pressure trying to keep up with Indiana's scoring pace led to rushed decisions and defensive lapses. That's not just basketball strategy. That's one player taking full control of the game's rhythm. Even Liberty coach Sandy Brondello kept it real. She didn't blame injuries or referees. She gave credit to the Fever for executing their game plan and hitting shots when it counted. When a championship-caliber coach offers that kind of praise with no excuses, it tells you everything you need to know. The Fever earned that win. The numbers were brutal. The Liberty gave up 100 points to a team that had been struggling without Clark, and 53 of those came in the first half alone. That's more than just a bad night. It's a sign of how completely Clark disrupts even the best defensive plans. Sabrina Ionescu summed it up well, calling basketball a game of runs, but in this case, she wasn't brushing off the loss. She was pointing out that Indiana stayed sharp from start to finish. This wasn't about a lucky streak. It was smart, disciplined basketball, and the Fever made it count. That's not just credit for a hot streak, it's recognition of sustained excellence. The stats tell the story. Indiana hit 17 threes, while New York managed just 20% from deep. That's not luck. That's what happens when one player, Caitlin Clark, draws so much defensive attention that her teammates consistently get clean looks. Breanna Stewart's comments about the team's resilience were especially revealing. The Liberty are used to competing at a championship level, but they openly admitted they struggled to keep up with the Fever's pace and sharp execution. When defending champions talk about needing to look in the mirror after losing to a team many counted out without their star, it speaks volumes about Clark's influence. The transition game was another clear difference. The Fever created 19 fast break chances, an area they'd been struggling in lately. That shift was fueled by Clark's ability to push the tempo and create early offense before defenses could get set. Stewart pointed out how hard it was to regain control when they couldn't get defensive stops or settle into their half-court rhythm. Sabrina Ionescu's comments drove the point home. She admitted the Liberty struggled to generate anything offensively when they couldn't get into transition. That's how disruptive Clark was. Her presence threw off the entire game plan on both ends of the floor. The Liberty have built their identity around defense fueling offense, but when the other team is scoring almost at will, that whole system falls apart. Caitlin Clark didn't just have a great individual game, she disrupted the Liberty's entire team concept. The free throw numbers only made things worse. New York actually got more foul calls, but still couldn't keep up with Indiana's offensive rhythm. Stewart admitted they weren't aggressive enough getting to the rim, partly because Clark's presence on the perimeter closed off driving lanes before they could even form. One of the most telling parts of the night was how many different defensive looks the Liberty threw at Clark and how none of them worked. They switched on screens, they tried zones, they even tried to deny her the ball altogether. Nothing slowed her down. When a top-tier coaching staff runs out of answers, you're no longer talking about a regular star, you're talking about someone who changes the game entirely. Stewart's remarks about knowing who we are were especially revealing. It wasn't just frustration, it was reflection. This loss forced the Liberty to question their standing in the league. They walked in as defending champs and top contenders. They walked out wondering where they truly stand now that Clark is back on the court. And there's more context worth noting. Both Ionescu and Stewart have played at the highest international levels. They understand elite competition. So when they show this kind of respect, not just for Clark's talent, but for how completely she reshaped the game, it means something. The respect Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart showed for Caitlin Clark means even more, because these two have faced the best players in the world. They know what true greatness looks like, and they saw it in Clark. Sabrina's comment about Clark's ability to get her shot off under pressure is especially important. Great scorers don't just make open shots, they create shots while defenders are all over them with the game on the line. Clark showed that skill time and again during this game. The defensive breakdowns Stewart mentioned weren't just mistakes. They happened because Clark's quick moves and smart decisions forced defenders into impossible choices, and they often chose wrong. When one player can pull 5 defenders out of position, even the best teams start to look average. Clark's return changed the pace of the game, too. The Liberty usually controlled the tempo and set the tone, but Clark's style pushed the game into a faster pace that suited Indiana's strengths. Stewart's acknowledgement of this shows how much respect she has for Clark's impact on the flow of the game. What stood out most wasn't just the number of shots Clark made. It was how smart her shot choices were, even when taking tough looks. She picked the right moments to shoot, making it clear she's a player who had struggled without her suddenly looked confident and in sync. Stewart pointed out that this wasn't just about Clark's individual talent, it was about how she lifted the whole team. The Liberty's defensive pressure on Clark backfired, opening up chances for her teammates. Stewart admitted they gave up too many easy shots, showing how Clark's presence creates advantages far beyond her own stats. The Fever's game plan was sharp, too. They targeted specific weaknesses in the Liberty's defense and exploited gaps most teams try to hide. Clark's vision and smart decisions were key to making that strategy work. Once Clark found her rhythm, the momentum stayed with Indiana. Even when the Liberty fought back, Clark kept creating scoring chances from anywhere on the court. Stewart's respect for that ability shows how much she values a player who can change the outcome on her own. Clark's impact went beyond scoring her 7 assists showed she made her teammates better, too. Ionescu's recognition of Clark's all-around game made it clear elite players help their team win in many ways, not just by scoring points. The championship stakes of this loss didn't escape Breanna Stewart or Sabrina Ionescu. Both acknowledged that losing to the Fever with Clark healthy changes the whole conversation about who really leads the league. That's not something defending champs say lightly. Their respectful post-game comments went beyond polite words. They recognized they'd just witnessed a performance that reminds everyone why Clark is called a generational talent. Choosing to give her credit instead of making excuses showed true sportsmanship, something that raises the whole league. When defending champions openly praise the player who just dominated them, you know something special happened. Ionescu and Stewart had every reason to deflect, but they didn't. They gave Clark the respect she earned on the court. What did you think of their classy response to being outplayed? Hit like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more honest WNBA analysis that keeps it real.